Welcome, folks. Hey, Paul, Sayers, TJ. Welcome, guys. Just waiting for the rest of the folks to join us. We have Doc this evening. Should be a very good one. In the meantime, you guys want to share the link and tell people to join us. Sheldon, welcome. All the Facebook Live people. Kim, Trudy is off this week. She is the producer in the background this week. All the people on IG Live, Lincoln, welcome, Tori, Patrick, welcome, guys. I'm just waiting for everybody to get on here. Hey, Kim, I will surely tell her you said hi. I hope everyone is doing well and still, adhering to the COVID protocols, because look like this thing ain't ending anytime soon. Hey, Dr. Young, welcome. Yo, Frederick, welcome, bro. Yeah, I'm waiting here to see if Doc's gonna get in here. Who are going into kidding season, or who's coming out or in the middle of it? Give me a shout out or a thumbs up if you're in kidding season or going into kidding season. Doc, you're in the middle of kidding season, Dr. Young. And so, well, I assume, or are you just saying hi back to me? I don't know. Here's Doc. So everybody on Facebook Live, if you guys could also share the link, and so we can get some people on here. Welcome, Doc. How are you?
Thank you, Ray. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just trying to, hang in there. Trying to be a good citizen.
A change agent.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to do what we do. I guess if you saw, I was asking people if they're in the middle of kidding season or coming out of kidding season. Okay. Dr. Young said she just finished kidding season. Our kidding season don't start till November.
Okay.
So
we'll
see.
Huh? Is it what's the natural kidding season, or is it that you determine
for me, there's no natural kidding season because I group breed, so I don't do the natural kidding procedures. I don't wait for them to just go and heat. I try to group them and breed them a core group of 20 and breed them accordingly. So I don't really wait around. Once 2 months after they wean, they need to go back in production. That's the objective on our farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So folks, this is Dr. Deslandes, and he is the president of CASE. Who don't know, CASE is the Agricultural College of Agriculture and Science Education. So,
right.
Yeah. So he's been doing some amazing work trying to get young people involved in agriculture, or I guess they're already interested. That's why they're there. But you're taking a different approach in educating them, correct?
That is correct. I think critically, what we're trying to do is to demonstrate that agriculture can actually make money.
You're breaking up.
No, I making the point that I think one of the things that we have to try to do is to demonstrate to our students that they can make money from agriculture.
Okay. So he's saying
it's not always clear to students that they can make money from agriculture, because we don't necessarily approach it from a business perspective all the time.
Oh, it seems like your Wi-Fi is a little choppy there because you're going in and out. Is anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, your Wi-Fi is going in and out. It looks like we lost them, so let's try again.
Is it better now, Ray?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay.
Okay, so you were saying your approach is more other side of the business part of it.
Infuse business into the agriculture process.
Okay.
And looking at the entire value chain.
Got it. Okay, look, can you tell the folks your background? Like, how you get started into this?
Well, it's getting into a case is a long story, but I'll make it short. I studied at University of West Indies. I did a bachelor's in management, and then I moved to Northwestern University, that's Kellogg Graduate School of Management.
Okay.
I actually did marketing, finance, and organizational behavior. So I did a triple major. Although marketing was always my area of focus. And then I came back to University of West Indies to teach.
Uh-huh.
And then went back to Florida State to do a PhD in marketing, focusing on tourism marketing. But my specialization really lies in branding and, branding products, institutions, cities. So I do a fair bit of branding research work. I associate with the University of West Indies for about 24 years. I started teaching there in 1994 and left there in 2018. And I came to CASE on secondment in 2015 from UWI. And I've been working with the ministry. In fact, I work with the Ministry of Agriculture for about 10 years as a consultant. With some very notable successes. I am an academic by training. So I do a lot of research. I tend to spend all the time, till all hours of the night, researching, better understanding the market from the numbers. So I'm a numbers person. I tend to focus a lot on numbers. What are we, when we talk about, for example, producing goats, what are we dealing with? What are the market opportunities for goats? So I tend to go behind the numbers to see what it is that we're targeting. And for example, if I'm going to give the government policy advice on goat and focus on goats, what am I going to say to the minister about why he should actually get into goats or focus on goats or pigs or sheep or whatever? So I tend to do a lot of research work to support my policy prescriptions or my policy proposals.
Got it.
And I still work with the ministry, albeit on a kind of voluntary basis, but I do provide advice from time to time.
Yeah.
And I sit on a number of government boards related to agriculture in an attempt to advance the sector, because I strongly believe that agriculture is a critical part of Jamaica's future. It is not the only activity that will drive the economy of Jamaica, but it's a critical linchpin or one of the critical legs, so to speak. And if you look at Vision 2030, it actually speaks to that vision and why agriculture must be given the kind of support it requires to be able to take its rightful place as a strong contributor to the Jamaican economy. At the moment, agriculture contributes about 7% of GDP. And it's coming from about 4.998. In 2008, it was 4.98%. So agriculture has grown almost 50% in the last decade, vis-a-vis other sectors of the economy. And what it demonstrates is agriculture's ability to employ a large amount of people, but also to produce wealth. And that's something that's the kind of mission, the vision I'm trying to push at case, that agriculture can be a critical part of the career path for students. Not just as workers within the sector, but critically as producers of food and ultimately becoming their own bosses, so to speak.
Okay, so you're more on the marketing side, as you say, which is making a point or making a case of how things will work, how it should work. Right?
Well, I started on the marketing side,
but
I started on the marketing side. I've actually broadened my perspective now to look at the value chain in its totality.
Okay.
So I look at it. I try to look at the production. What are the issues affecting the production? So, for example, as the recent chairman of the dairy board, I would look, for example, at why are we not producing more milk? What prevents us from producing more milk? So I also look at the production problems, because the marketing is the end product of the value chain process. And you have to have something to market. And interestingly, you have to keep going back further and further back to the beginning of the value chain in order to perfect the marketing that you're doing at the front end.
Okay. So let's talk small ruminants, goat, sheep.
Yes.
Where are we? Where are we right now in your professional analysis?
I think we are at the starting point of the industry, to be quite frank with you. I don't think we have an industry per se. I mean, I think there are many deficiencies. We have a lot of individual farmers, but we don't have a structure that allows us to properly grow the industry. So you have ad hoc systems. I mean, for example, one of the areas that I'd love to see is having centralized abattoirs, for example. Having a structure where and usually this can be driven by clusters of goat farmers that can buy animal feed centrally and therefore reduce costs. Because ultimately, it really comes down to a matter of cost. We import, and why I say we're at the beginning of the industry, we import $12 million worth of small ruminant products, or 2.6 million kgs.
That's Chevron and mutton.
Yes, but recall that it is mostly mutton. It is about 90% mutton, but it is used as substitute for Chevron.
Okay.
So when Jamaicans ask for goat meat, there's no goat meat. They're gonna take mutton. some Jamaicans use mutton as goat meat. They call mutton goat meat.
Yeah.
So you really will hear a farmer talk about chevron. Or a person going to the shop to ask, they'll ask for local goat.
Yeah.
Or local mutton.
Yes.
But local goat imports is only about 10% of the total imports into the country. But we recognize that there's a substitution effect that's taking place.
You're breaking up again.
So people are using mutton as goat. So any increase in production of local goats can possibly impact the import numbers that we're seeing.
Oh,
now, to put
it
in perspective, Ray.
Yeah.
To put in perspective, to replicate or to produce 2.6 million kgs of mutton, you need hundreds of thousands of female goats or does to produce at that level of demand.
Yes.
That is the reality. So the point I'm making is that we're nowhere near an industry. We're just beginning the process. What you need to be looking at, Ray, are goat farms of 10,000 and 5,000, along with the 200, 300, and 400s. You need to start to look at large farms. Large farms that can create clusters, almost create what we sometimes refer to as a mother farm. Right? So you have this large goat farm that feeds all the smaller farmers in the area. Whether you provide them with breeding material, or you're providing them with services, whether it's veterinary service or whatever. But the point is that you need hundreds of thousands of those to produce what the industry actually requires.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate here. Do you prescribe to a community-based supported agriculture setup? Meaning, let's say we're in Highgate here. I got a goat farm, 100 goats. What if Highgate had 5 of us or 6 of us? Right? What would that model help?
Well, that's the point I'm making about clusters. We need to create clusters of goat farmers around the country. So iGate could be twinned with Esha, with another bay. So you can create a cluster of goat farmers in an area. And so so you start to get into shared services. Right? There are many things that a farmer can learn from you, what you're doing, Ray. And so you start to think about how you build standards within the goat industry. Right? So, for example, the housing structure that you need to put up, the kind of feed requirements, because the model that we are using mostly is a cut and carry, where you drive on the road, you cut grass, you give your goats, or farmers will tie out the goats, or they'll graze where there's land to graze. In many cases, farmers are grazing on land that they don't own. So you run the risk.
That's a whole different. That's a whole different argument, but yeah.
No, that's true. But the point I'm making to you is that if you start to build a cluster of goat farmers around those 5 farmers with 100 goats, you may have another 50 farmers with 20 or 30 or 40. But over time, Ray, you build a localized industry, a community-based industry that's built around goats.
Yes.
So that model is definitely a model that can work. And we should encourage that model to build out. In fact, if you look, for example, at areas in St. Mary, here with all, that's like 10 minutes from you. Though all of those areas should be goat producing areas. There's not enough rainfall to sustain crops, right? We can rainwater harvest. There's enough grassland to produce food for the goats. So that area can become a major hub for goat farming around in St. Mary. I mean, there are other parts of the country. There's St. Elizabeth, there's St. Catherine, there's Clarendon. You can build out the same kind of structure. But I'd like to see, for example, Ray, 30,000, 40,000 doors within that iGate area.
Correct, yeah.
The goat becomes a sustainable livelihood within the area, within iGate.
Got it. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So there, for example, when you speak about semi, I know there's a lot of coconut farms. I don't know if they're
Yes.
actually active or not, but I think the land below the land that these coconut trees are on are prime grazing land, or could be used for fodder, could be used for harvesting for silage and all that stuff. But they're just sitting there.
Yes.
I drive by
Well,
them all
that's
the
it.
time, and I'm like, that is. And since I own goats, I see all these sticks. So I'm like, oh my god, I could run my herd through this because it's a lot of grass, a lot of forage, a lot of
Absolutely.
shrubs and all this stuff. But it just sits there, and all they do is wait until they cut coconut.
And they burn it, and they either burn the grass or they cut the grass and it's left there.
Yeah, and that's
So
land
that's
that
the
could be
point,
used for
right?
grazing or for harvesting for forage. But I don't know. You're right. There
It
needs
is
to
it
be a,
is it is something. I mean, there's not a whole lot of um coconut farms in St. Mary. There used to be, but the farms are wiped out by a disease,
yeah.
little yellowing, which is still a factor,
Hmm.
but it still is an opportunity, I believe. Because, for example, Ray, you could
Yeah.
enter into a relationship with, say, a JP Foods for to cut that grass within that area and,
Yes.
and to supply your goats. So there are opportunities to team with other farmers to say, okay, well, let me keep your coconut industry, your coconut farm clean. I'll harvest the grass on a regular basis to feed my goats. I mean, in fact, they would welcome that because it's the cost that they would not have to capture in their own maintenance of their farms, because that maintenance will be done by you, the goat farmer. That really speaks
Hmm.
a more integrated model of production across the parish.
Got it. Yeah. It's people got to think outside the box.
Yes.
And then some of these landowners too, they don't really want people on their land because of brutal larceny. But guys are on the thing is saying you could step back from the camera a bit. I guess they like to want to see your handsome face. I don't know. That was TJ.
Okay.
Terrence said that.
That is it
Oh,
better?
that's better.
Okay.
Um, okay, so with Case, let's talk about Case, right? Let's talk about Case. Is Case, what's Case mission really? Because
Case case
I've
mission
had
is, yeah, go on.
I've had few students come here from Case that are looking for work, but basically they just want to be managers or executive or something. They don't want to get their hands dirty. And we're very short on good workers. Like, I'm not talking about farm hands. I don't have no farm hands. I got workers, people who have vested interest in the operation and understand how everything works. But they also get their hands dirty. They also do the farm work just like
Yes.
I do. But I don't. I have no capacity for somebody who's just gonna walk around with a clipboard. So, what is Case's mission in developing these students? Like, what is the objective?
Well, the objective of Case is to produce a worker that can provide the role that you speak of. We don't train our students to walk around with a clipboard. Our students go through at least 1,500 of hours of on hands-on training, looking at goats and pigs and sheep and whatever. So our students are practical. Now, what you have is a society where youngsters do not necessarily like to get their hands dirty. It's not a case problem per se. It's a
Mm-hmm.
problem across the board. We're trying to do is to demonstrate to case students that there's nothing wrong getting your hands dirty. And you find that in while you find those students that you encounter, there are other students you will get to rate that I'm sure you love them. because they'll do exactly what it is that you are talking about.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to, it's not the training per se in many instances. It's the personality, it's a societal pressure, and it's the kind of exposure the students get outside of the training that they get at CASE. Because at CASE, we train them to be hands-on. And they should be able to provide the service that you are requiring.
Okay. Okay, so that's one. Do you guys encourage entrepreneurship, or
Every CASE student now is required to do entrepreneurship as a requirement in their course, in their program. And remember, we not just do agriculture. We have business. We teach business. We teach hospitality. We teach education. Whether it's early childhood or primary or secondary. We do science. So we do natural sciences. We do environmental sciences. So and every program now requires the students to take a course in entrepreneurship, because we want to open the student mindset, their eyes to the possibilities. So, for example, we want to expose an agriculture student or a student in environmental sciences to agriculture. The idea is that we want to start to cross-fertilize between the different students of different programs. So, for example, we're now offering programs in agro-processing and management. We're offering courses in agribusiness management, agri-engineering. So we're now trying to deepen that cross-fertilization of ideas across the different spectrum, because we recognize that agriculture is an ecosystem that requires a lot of different disciplines to make it work. And that's something that we spend a lot of time and effort to try to transform. So the short answer is yes. We encourage entrepreneurship. In fact, I give an example. Much of the activities on the campus, we incorporate our students in the process. So, for example, we're developing an aquaponics, hydroponics system to produce massive amounts of vegetables, and our students are integral in the design, in the rollout of that project. So we do encourage and introduce our students to these activities, so they become part of what the school is actually doing to generate its own revenue, and demonstrate to students how we can actually earn money from agriculture.
Okay, so do you guys do internship?
Yes.
Like place students on farms?
We place hundreds of students across the country.
I've never got an application.
Well, I'll certainly let them know about you, because we do have those opportunities. I mean, every year we place, and then we have a program. We call it CIEP. It's a cooperative internship program. It's structured, it's organized, and they come on your farm for at least 8 to 10 weeks, right? And you have to manage them, monitor them. You provide us a report. So it's actually very structured, very organized. And then every day the students have to demonstrate that they have added value to you in order to be able to come to pass that aspect of the program. But if they don't pass the CIEP, which is the internship program, they can't get the degree.
Okay. Because I'd love to see what these students can do and how innovative their brain works,
Okay.
Because in my opinion, agriculture is not what our grandparents and great grandparents used to do. That's not how I view it. Right. Agriculture is sexy. Like, and I want to see how these students are thinking, when it comes to technology, when it comes to doing things differently, time management, time assessment on the farm, how fast it takes to do something, and can we improve on the time. I'm really not impressed with a lot of people that come here. They seem like they perfect the art of running out the clock. People just take forever to do things, and they run out the clock,
right?
Because they think that well, regardless of what, they're there for the day, so they're gonna get paid for the day. But my objective is to get X number of things done for the day. because the next day we're moving on to something else.
I think,
You know?
Ray, we share the same concerns. The reality is that my biggest concern for the agriculture sector is the lack of focus on productivity.
Yeah,
Productivity is the single greatest threat to Jamaica's agriculture. Because if we're not productive, we can't come.
exactly.
Competitiveness is about time management. It's about efficiency. So, for example, and part of what we are trying to transform ourselves is to infuse that type of urgency in the student general management of the farm years that they are participating. So, for example, what are the standards for pigs? I mean, what's the litter size we should be targeting? I mean, those are things that we are trying to shift to. So, for example, when you talk about kidding season, what percentage of your does get pregnant? And what's your rate of kidding? Whether it's 1.5, 1.7? No, these are the kind of numbers that we're trying to infuse now in what we're doing. The students begin to recognize it's not just about just going to work. It's about aggression. It's about ideas. It's about being creative. It's about transforming. It's about efficiency. Because that's what is going to help you to generate that revenue that you require. Just getting up and planting stuff in the ground is not going to cut it. It's not going to help. That's not going to work.
We've had many debates here on the farm with my guys on, just time management and how to approach things and why we approach things a certain way. And I realized that a lot of them, for real, that don't grasp that concept. They don't really understand what I'm talking about, Even when it comes to crops and stuff, I have guys who plant their own stuff at home. And I'm saying, hey, like, you're wasting time, man. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, who's going to plant something and wait 8 months? You don't have a plantation that you can plant something over here and wait for it while something over here. I'm like, no, dude, if you got half an acre, everything needs to be on the market within a month. And I don't know what it is. It's just a mental block. They didn't understand what I was saying. But so we're talking about a revolutionized system that you're doing a case to get you bringing out students that are going to think about agriculture in a complete different way than what Jamaica is accustomed to in the past, right?
Yes. That's what we're trying to achieve.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, Doc. When I'm gonna take some students, and whenever we talk about it, and now we're gonna see what they're about, and they're gonna get the hard truth on the report.
Well, I mean, we welcome that because, in fact, for example, we have sent 15 students to Israel. We are monitoring those students. It's an 11-month internship. And we have deliberately targeted Israel because we want to expose students to countries where technology is at the forefront, at the heart of what these countries do.
See, that's a great initiative because I find, and it's not even just in agriculture, every time Jamaicans, 90% of the time, go abroad, and they don't have a choice. They have to adapt to the system, right? Then most of them adapt to the system and understand how it works, and they do it. But if they're at home in Jamaica, they don't.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when I tell people like, yo, rainfall, I don't care, dude. You got to come to work. If they're in the U.S. or North America, it could be 10 feet of snow. If the city don't say it's a state of emergency, everybody stay home, you better get up earlier than usual and go to work. But you know how many times dudes are late, an hour late or 2 hours late because it was raining. And I'm like, the taxi them stop running because it's raining now, but he won't leave his house because it's raining.
Yes. To be frank, Ray, I think Jamaicans are adaptable people. But one challenge that we find is that the culture of Jamaica is one that perpetuates this kind of behavior. And in many respects, when persons go overseas, They adapt to what is there. When they come back, they tend to fall back into the same kind of regime. It's not necessarily universal, because there are some people who come back to Jamaica and reflect the culture they have been exposed to.
Yeah.
Because they see and understand the value of efficiency and time management to money.
Yeah.
So for example, I can give an example. I was on the farm yesterday. I went to look at our goat operation, and the rain was falling. I was sitting there. Two workers came to work. It was 8:30. I asked them, what time were they supposed to come to work? 8 o'clock. Okay, but it was 8:30. Why you just coming to work? It was raining. But I said, listen, but I've been here from 7 o'clock. The rain was not falling continuously. You could have gotten to work early. And I made a point to them that I bet you that if I check your record, you're always late. So it's a pattern of behavior that we have gotten ourselves into, Ray, that I think has held us back. Because when Jamaicans go overseas, they're efficient. They can be very efficient. When they're in Jamaica, they go right back to normal behavior. Right? And how do you break that? How do you change that mindset?
It's called survival, man. You go to North America, it's either you do it or you suffer.
Yes. But in Jamaica, they can survive.
In Jamaica, they can go home to their mom, or they can hang out on the corner and go eat some ackee or something or whatever. You know what I mean?
They can get a banana. They can go to the river to catch some fish.
Yeah.
They can go to the sea. But how do you create that sense of urgency to enable the youngsters to operate?
I think it's empowerment. I think it's empowerment. You know, I try to empower the guys that are here. I talk to them every day about that stuff. You know, I force a guy to go get a bank account. I force him, you have a little bike, I force him to get the bike insured and licensed properly instead of riding in backbush. I force them to do things that are going to be beneficial to them. The ones who don't want to do it, they quickly get weeded out. But the ones who do it and see the benefits of it, they're the ones who actually start asking questions about how the operation works, giving inputs on how they think something can work better. The guys who are just here for a check, you don't even see them when you're having a discussion. And that's the dead truth. They take with themselves, according to the man. And take with themselves if you start getting into some serious discussion about, you know, management practices or changing something in the system that will work better. And I'm clear to them. I'm like, sometimes we change things and it don't even work. We're going back. And you see some people frown. Oh, last week we changed it, and this week we'll go back to the thing. Why did we change it in the first place? And, you know, the ones who are excited about it will just say, hey, we have to try it. If you don't try it, we don't know. And then there's the ones who just gripe because to them, it's work. It's just labor. And because they don't want to do it, you know, they'll just grab a weed whacker and cut down the whole 12-acre pasture. As long as they not have to talk to nobody. Seriously. Those are the guys that will sit and watch and like, yo, seriously? Like, really? You know, you'd rather just do that. And that's not what I'm about, because sooner or later I want something that can cut it down in an hour.
Right.
I want a man out there with a weed whacker for 4 hours or 8 hours. No, I want something that'll cut it down in 2 hours. That's what I'm going after. So I need people to think on that level. You know what I mean? That's why on the students, I want the students are going to think on that level. Not just, yo, yeah, man, I can use a weed whacker and cut it down. It will take me 6 hours. No, I want a man to say, yo, you know, say if we get a bushwhacker or whatever them thing is and put it on the back of a little tractor, that tractor can also pull some grass. And, you know what I mean? I need people to think on that level, which in turn makes the operation more productive, more brain power and less manpower. That's what I need. You know, that's what the industry needs. That's what people need to think outside of, you know, outside the box and not get stuck on using cutlass for prepare a acre of land when, you know what I mean? Or even that, if you don't have the resources, but then plant something that's going to turn over instead of sitting and waiting 6 months for a crop to come up. You know what I mean? And the older folks think that's cool, but the younger folks, we're trying to tell them, no, man, that is not going to get me. That's not a business. It's a backyard garden. That's not a business. You know?
Well, it depends on what you're growing in a way. Because, I mean, there are different opportunities. If you think about crops, I can plant 10 acres of cassava. It will take me 9 months. But at the end of 9 months, I mean, I will see the benefit of that. It's really come down again the productivity. It depends on what
yeah,
is
but what do you do? What do you do in that 9 months?
In terms of what? But
if you have 2 acres, if you have 2 acres of land,
yes,
and you plant cassava on that 2 acres of land,
yes.
What do you do for 9 months?
No, I'm saying that you're talking about a small farmer.
That's what I'm saying. If you're a small farmer, you can't think like that. If you have a plantation,
but
then you can
many
think
small
like
farmers,
that.
there are not many small farmers who actually do that. You'll find the small farmers, they are planting, they have some okra, they are different things. You may find with 10 different things on the land. So the typical small farm in Jamaica grows multitude of crops that they can sell almost on a weekly basis to earn some kind of revenue. So they may have a little cassava, they may have a tomato, they may have a pepper. So there's always something that they can sell, right? So you do find that they do that.
It is not. I find that they are not structured because, in my experience, they plant it and then try to sell it. My perspective is sell it before you plant it.
Right.
Go to a supermarket or like a guy up here in iGoat named Beta that has a fruit or food produce stand that he sells vegetables, fruits, all that stuff. I'm gonna sell him my whole half acre callaloo before I plant it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I can say to him, look, at the end of this date, I'm gonna have X amount of callaloo. Do you want it? Yes. Okay. It's sold before I plant it. So then I can say, yo, moving forward, I will have X amount to give you. Can you commit to it? You know what I mean? I don't want to plant it and then go open the van back up a high gate for sale.
Well, let me say this here. I have been in this thing a fairly long time now. And let me speak, to be very frank with you, there are not many buyers who will do that. Our buyers are spot buyers. They don't want to give contracts either verbally or in writing.
Well, there's restaurants.
No, they don't. The majority of buyers in Jamaica don't give contracts. They buy when it's available.
No, but it doesn't have to be a written contract. It could be a handshake.
They're not giving a contract because here's the challenge that we face within the sector. Many farmers need financing for their crops. In order for them to get the financing, they need to be able to have a contract from a buyer. Few buyers will make that commitment to the farmer. So that's one of the reasons that's a challenge that the farmers face in getting financing for his operation. It's a perennial problem. It's a national problem. We have tried different strategies to try to fix the problem. I mean, we have had some successes rate, but to be frank with you, it's not a universal thing that we have solved.
I think we gotta teach them how to market.
Yes.
Marketing. Because I can sell a goat before the kid even born. A lot of guys on here now, I can tell you, in the last year or two, have learned the skill of selling their animals before the kid even born, just by marketing the mother, the dam, and the sire. And people like, yo, I want a kid out of that. I want a buck from that buck. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you market yourself, you open up to more people coming to you saying, I like what you have to offer. Put me on your list.
That is true to some extent, but the point I'm making to you is that it's not universal. It may work now for goats because, for example, if you're in the goat business and you have a kid that is 13 pounds on birth, as a recent example from one of our goat colleagues,
Yeah.
you're gonna want to you're gonna put an order for that animal. But generally speaking, Ray, if for me to get a company to commit to buying 10 acres of callaloo or 5 acres of sweet potato, there are very few companies who are going to do that. We are trying to change that culture by encouraging these companies to get into long-term contracting. In fact, when we set up the agro parks, it was based on the idea that the parks be contracting the buyers so they can produce consistently. That's one of the changes in the Jamaican agricultural landscape that need to happen. We're not there yet, but that's something that is critical to the long-term growth of the sector. Because as
I think it goes.
Point, Ray,
I understand. I think it goes hand in hand, though. I think it goes hand in hand because one, we're getting a lot more. We're getting a lot more young entrepreneurs in the marketplace. People who are thinking outside the box. I see a lot of pop-up kitchens where people are cooking at home and jump in their vehicle and deliver it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Those people are people you can tap into and say, look, I can provide you fresh vegetables. I can provide you good goat meat, like 6 month, 8 month old goat meat, not 2-year-old but tough like rubber. Good goat meat. I'll give you 2 pounds or 5 pounds for your cook for yourself and taste it for yourself and then tell me if my goat meat is better than the one we buy at the supermarket or over. So, you know what I mean? Like those are the ideas that I'm talking about. You know, and we get people to think like that and don't just say, yo, I'm going up at iGoat and go open up the van back or the car back and just try to sell things. I think you talk to people, you market it, you have an Instagram page or whatever, and you just let people know your thing is superior, your thing is better, it looks better. How you prepare it is better. That because we're getting into a whole different generation that's just visual and don't have time to go walk street and look for things and whatever. If you can tell a man, say, look, I'll have a basket ready for you with these things. You just got to think outside the box.
Let me share with you, Ray. I mean, that's a model that we are certainly practicing at the school. So, for example, with our project, we are about to engage with a company to supply them with lettuce on a weekly basis. Right? We are agreeing price beforehand. We're set up a 1-year contract in advance. And we are agreeing quality and mark and traceability and global gap certification, all of that. So we are actually demonstrating that to the students. We said, this is what we're doing. So the point you're making, that you're speaking to a marketer. My primary goal is always to secure the market before I produce. So I'm with you. The issue, Ray, is convincing or the majority of our 220,000 farmers to go with that model. That is always a challenge.
You know, so Jamaicans follow fashion. You know, Jamaicans follow fashion.
Let me say this here. It is. I have seen from where we're coming from. I have seen green shoots. I have seen encouraging signs that the model is changing. Let me give an example. Most exports from Jamaica of agricultural produce is done on a ad hoc basis. So a buyer goes around and buys, and he sells to an exporter. What we're actually doing now is connecting the exporter directly to, right?
Yeah.
Directly to the exporter. So the exporter can actually have a contract that the farmer supplies to, and then use that contract to generate revenue from the bank to grow the crop. So we're seeing that change coming. Is it enough? Is it moving fast enough? No. We're seeing, but it's happening. The point is that we're seeing it changing, and we're trying to certainly encourage more and more of that kind of approach to the marketplace. For example, hotels don't like to buy on contract. But we are pushing them in that direction. We have had examples of contracts with hotels for 1 year in advance, where farmers are supposed to deliver at periodic intervals over a period of time. What we're actually seeing, though, however, is that we're seeing the farmers not delivering on time. So both the farmer and the hotels are breaching the contract obligations. So part of that issue that we have to work out is getting the farmer to understand the importance of commitment. Many of our farmers don't have commitment. They're not committed to a buyer. If they get $5 more or $10 more for the produce is gone. And that's a model we need to get our farmers to move away from.
As I said, Jamaicans are follow fashion, so you get a few people who start succeeding at it, and everybody will start saying, yo, I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? If I'm going to open a store, a local shop down the road and I sell something, and them see my move away like him and make a money. Next man, I'm going to go find a space close to him and open the same thing. You know what I mean? So we just need to let people know that a specific model, a certain way of doing it,
yes,
is the most successful way for small farmers. Small farmers cannot compete with the big farmers. But if they get into a good production system, they can turn over millions of dollars on their 2 acre, them 1 acre.
Yes.
Because they do a great production system and understand what they're doing.
Which is why I come back to again the mother farm concept, the community-based farms. So you create this cluster. And that knowledge then flows from the cluster back and forth. That improves the small farmers' ability to compete. The point I'm making to you, Ray, is that you may have the cluster leader with 200 goats, 500 goats. But you may have 10 farmers or 20 goats that adapt what you're doing and are able to generate revenue consistently. So that's the point I'm making to you, is that you have to create that model. So for example, what you're doing is wonderful, because what you're doing is demonstrating to farmers, and importantly, you're willing to share what you're doing. There are many large farmers who are not willing to share what they're doing. They feel that somebody's going to take away their ideas, but you have to build that relationship between yourself and the farmers around you, because it is only through educating the farmers around that you will grow.
Yeah, we tell everybody here. We tell everybody here what we do, how we do it, and how we get our results. You know. So speaking of challenges that we face, what is the agriculture sector, livestock? Because most of the people who are watching here are the livestock farmers. What are the major challenges you see the sector facing that's hindering growth? We have talked about the organized way of farming, production, and all that stuff. How about red tape and access to resources? We've been hitting hard on banking and all that stuff in the last month or so. And do we have leaders that are giving farmers a vision? Or do we have, farmers who are leading the way with a different way of thinking, a vision of, changing the landscape of farming?
Well, let me tell you, Ray, the predator asked me, let me list a couple of them and then we can get into it. Predator is a major factor. The absence of technology in the production process. We don't infuse enough technology in what we're doing. The lack of financing, the lack of know-how. There's simply not enough knowledge about the respective area that farmers require to grow the crop effectively. And one of the major issues that I find, for example, and let's take technology. We don't do best practice. We don't adopt best practice. We are people that we are afraid of change in many respects. So, for example, Case is planting 12 acres of grass in Anata Bay. I mean, I hear farmers laughing at why we're doing this, but we must be mad. But people don't understand that there are emerging models or established models that can improve your efficiency. Why are we doing this? Because we simply don't have enough land to graze our cows. So for us, grazing is not a viable option for us to expand. So in order for us to
Yeah.
expand, we have to move to a different model. That kind of technology infusion and exposure and openness is missing. And that's a major issue that's affecting us. Even the issue of predator lasting rate. There are things that we can do to minimize predator lasting among ourselves that many of our farmers are not even getting into. I had a farmer, a banana farmer in Spring Gardens, who put up cameras in the trees and was in the US watching his banana farm plantation. So I'm saying we have to get creative, right? We have to get creative about the whole matter of how we help our farmers. Financing is a major challenge. Our banks do not understand agriculture. They have lost the ability to assess the risk. Agriculture is about risk. And so when a farmer goes to the bank to borrow money, he has to demonstrate how he can mitigate the risk that's associated with his production system. So if you go to the bank now and you want $1 million to buy goats, if I'm a banker, I'm going to want to find out how are you going to secure the goats? How are you going to feed them? Are you going to get the right genetics? Right? So the banks are not really going to ask that kind of question because they don't really understand the industry to be able to ask you those kind of questions. So, and that's a major factor affecting the ability of our farmers to access money.
Well, I'm going to challenge that because we've been talking to some bankers. So I'm going to challenge that whole concept.
Yes.
You know, we had a marketing manager from PC Bank last week.
Yes.
And Mr. White, right? Mr. Wright White out of Portland.
Yes.
And he broke it down for us on what the banks are looking for. Right?
Yes.
And I was pleasantly surprised how easy it was that they made it for farmers. We had a guy from NCB also. Like, we were shocked how easy they were making it for bankers. You know what was the major hurdle for farmers?
Yes.
Not being in the system, not being a registered farmer, not having a business account, not having the farm register at a business. That was the major issue these banks have. Because these people are going to the bank looking for personal loans.
Yes.
But the bank not going to give you a personal loan to deal with business and you get the benefits of a business loan. We've been pushing here hard for people to go register their business,
right?
Farm, get tax compliance, you know, get a business account with a bank. PC Bank will give microloans to farmers.
Right, but can I make a point, Ray?
Yeah,
the PC Bank was designed and set up to support the agriculture sector, right? It suffered over the years because farmers will borrow the money and don't pay it back.
Yeah.
And so they're going to bail out the PC Bank. But if you look at the PC Bank's portfolio, you may be surprised at how much of those monies are loaned to buy cars and not necessarily to support the agriculture sector in its original form.
Yeah, because the car loans are more profitable.
No, and